Well, as we just heard across the wire that Iran is preparing for a potential attack on U.S. bases in the region, I just want to lay out a couple angles of this Iran escalation from the standpoint of somebody who's actually gone to war with these people. I don't like the idea of having to go to war. It should be an absolute last resort, especially if someone's willing to fight that war for us, which Israel seems to be doing right now. That said, if for some reason we do have to commit to war, now or ever, it should be an effort towards annihilation. No nation building, no consultants, no contingencies. But here's the litmus test. And to those making the decision to engage in war or any conflict, is it important enough that you would go yourself? Would you send your son or your daughter? That's the gravity of these decisions that should be taken.
President Trump, you've been great. Help Israel finish the job. Give them bombs, fly with them if necessary. You got to finish the job with Iran.
He's never met a war he doesn't like. Now, if a bunch of old men and women in Washington, D.C. are willing to commit America to kill thousands, potentially even millions of people in another country, you should take this as seriously as if you yourself were being sent. I don't get that sentiment from the people cheering on war right now. I'm so tired of people like him and others on both sides of the aisle saying, yes, we got to go to war right now after buying a bunch of Raytheon stock. Trump has been very consistent, though, on Iran. Just can't have a nuke, period, full stop.
We're doing pretty well. Right now, we're doing pretty well. Remember, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. We don't have to go too deep into it. They just can't have a nuclear weapon.
I happen to think they already have some variation of a rudimentary warhead, especially considering for the last 20 years, our intelligence community has told us that they're months away from it. But I digress. Look, I applaud the fact that Trump has gotten us out of wars, but imagine the gravity of where he's sitting right now. I mean, think about what that guy's going through, whether you like him or not, okay? He's in the Situation Room with his cabinet and with a button to destroy an entire country closer than the sandwich that he's currently eating. Look, he campaigned on no war, but he's faced with an immeasurable decision where you have members of both parties pushing military action against Iran. Trump is trying everything possible to not involve America in this war, taking every posture, yet pleading with Iran to come to the table, and I respect that. Let Israel fight what is currently their war. But we, as Americans, we do have Americans in the region. And here's where it gets really complicated. Iran also has a history of funding weapons campaigns and militias that killed American troops in Iraq. I was hit by an IED in 2007, which specifically was an EFP, an explosively formed projectile, a roadside bomb that was designed for, paid for by, and deployed by Iran and its proxies. That's not up for debate. It killed 3 of my friends right next to me. We killed the people immediately responsible for that, but Iran has never been fully held accountable for the hundreds, if not thousands, of American soldiers' lives lost at the hands of their involvement. And that's a super sore subject for me, considering they have a single building standing right now. And I think Trump understands that, which is why he posted today in an effort to deter Iran from further action, saying, we know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He's an easy target, but he's safe there. We're not going to take him out, kill, at least for now, but we don't want missiles shot at civilians, our American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin. These words are only as good, though, as the notion that Iran actually thinks we're going to execute. So at some point, if Iran does not come to the table, America has to follow through. Otherwise, they'll just do whatever they want, which means they're going to get a nuke. Now, to date, Trump has shown restraint, but he may be required to show resolve very soon, which is scary, I know, but it's the reality. If I was advising the president, I would tell him, look, if you commit to this war, if you genuinely feel that America needs to engage in this for whatever reason, because there's no other option, you need to make it rain. And when we're done, it needs to look like nobody ever lived there at all. I want this to be the last war America ever has to fight in my lifetime, because the people who have been a pain in the ass to America will look at this and say, wow, we don't want that. We're not just facing a war with Iran right now. We're facing a conflict with every other geopolitical foe in the world at this moment, because they are watching our response. And if Iran calls our bluff and we don't move, China invades Taiwan. Russia finishes off Ukraine, which doesn't really concern me that much, but Iran will get a nuclear weapon at that point. And then what? Ronald Reagan nailed the policy of appeasement.
Admittedly, there's a risk in any course we follow other than this, but every lesson of history tells us that the greater risk lies in appeasement. And this is the specter our well-meaning liberal friends refuse to face, that their policy of accommodation is appeasement. And it gives no choice between peace and war, only between fight or surrender. If we continue to accommodate, continue to back and retreat, eventually we have to face the final demand, the ultimatum. And what then?
So, it's really too bad people don't talk like that anymore. We have fought too many wars, half in, half out, rules of engagement, handcuffing our troops, and too much restraint. Look, if you engage, Mr. President, there needs to be no restraint. As somebody who's been the guy going through the door, let me tell you, if you hit the go button, you need to unleash the dogs of war and not hold back. And I'm telling you this as somebody who would sign up today and volunteer to be the first person in the door against the Ayatollahs myself. It cannot be about regime change, though. It has to be about regime elimination. And let them pick up the pieces after. And if another bad guy picks him up, well, he needs to know we're going to do it all over again. Look, I'm advising against war at all costs. But if a hair on the head of one single American is touched, like Iran is saying right now, you need to ensure that Iran is left naked to their enemies for the next century. Let me tell you what's in our arsenal. Think about this for a sec. America has 15,000 planes in our arsenal. Launch them. We have 11 carrier battle groups. Deploy them. Destroyers with enough munitions to dispose of anything at the push of a button anywhere within thousands of miles of them. We have intel assets that know every single move of every single person in power in that current regime right now. Hand it over to my people so we can go kick in their doors and kill them, their friends, and their neighbors. We can launch a bomber from a base anywhere in the world that doesn't technically exist, that drops a bomb from an altitude so high that it's classified, that 5 miles away, people will hear it explode after you're already dead. And when they run out of bombs, I want them 80 feet above the deck at twice the speed of sound, just like this. We spend more on defense than the next 25 countries combined. And if you push that button, Mr. President, the world needs to know why. Because if we're going to go to war, I want to never have to fight another war again. We won World War II because this is what we did. We dropped a portable sun on a city and then dropped a second one just so they would know we would do it again. If you hit the go button, Mr. President, you can't care about collateral damage or dead civilians and bombed out schools, none of it. And if you don't want to see that, then don't do anything and let Iran get a nuke. I mean, those are the options. Sucks. But we need the history books to reflect that the last time society who harmed Americans is now visiting their heritage in pieces at the bottom of a lake with scuba gear. We don't have a military for some day. We have it for such an occasion like this. And it's not just Iran. It's the world. They need to understand that. Because if the world, including Iran, does understand that, we don't have to make these choices anymore because they won't tempt us. It's a concept that Ronald Reagan had, peace through strength. But they have to believe you'll use the strength.
He loves the Constitution. He fights for what's right. He hates the bad guys. He's a freedom warrior. He's your freedom warrior. Watch Carl Higbie every weekday on Newsmax.